Welcome back to Studio F on Fast Times Willy B. We'll be reviewing Flight Risk. Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
Russell!
Welcome back to Fast Times Willy B. I'm Willy B. I've got Rosie with me. Rosie, how we doing?
Pretty good.
So your first new release of the year.
All right.
We've got Flight Risk. Came out today. Directed by Mel Gibson. Familiar face in the director's chair. Mm-hmm. And then not a big cast.
Not at all.
We're basically stuck here with three people. Obviously Mark Wahlberg and Topher Grace being the bigger names of that trio. We'll start with the good. And I would put the acting in the good.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't have any problems with the acting, especially, I mean, there wasn't a lot to work with Mark Wahlberg, but I liked what we got of him.
Yeah.
And then Topher Grace, a surprising comedic relief throughout this movie.
Yeah, I was, I didn't even realize that he was in this. We watched the trailer, and, I think his glasses threw me off. Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of that 70s show, of course. But, he's been in other things, late last year, mm-hmm. and I had no idea, and I feel like I need to go back and rewatch to see him again. But it was nice to get a little comedic relief in it. Brought me back to watching that 70s show, because he'd always have something comical to say. So I really enjoyed the acting as well. It has to be good. It's not a huge plot. Yeah. You were in the airplane. Yeah. The entirety of the show, mm-hmm. or the movie. So, the acting has to be good. Yeah. Or it's going to be a complete flop, because there's nothing else to distract you from the bad acting if it was, but it was pretty good.
Other things I liked, the action when we get it is pretty good. Mm-hmm. Some good gruesome effects there on Mark Wahlberg. I would say the third act was pretty good. Mm-hmm. We'll get into some of my gripes with the second act, but the third act is where we get the most action. Once we get Wahlberg broken out and we get, he stabs Topher Grace and he's choking out what is she? She's not a deputy. She's a marshal. She's choking out the US marshal. That sequence was good, and then, her trying to land the plane, and he gets out again, and all of that's pretty good, and then obviously, him falling out of the plane and getting hit by the...
That was wild.
Insane.
I couldn't even watch that. That was too much for me, even.
But we, the third act, we see a little bit of a twist between what's going on with the deputies and who's in charge and who is leaking information and stuff like that. So it gets tense in the third act. So I did enjoy the third act for the most part.
My nerves were pretty shot that last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I was just watching intense. Yeah. Intense for sure.
Yeah. Other than that, I don't know. This was for me a January movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I liked it more than I thought I was going to, because I usually don't like movies where it's set in one place. Mm-hmm. And I think we talked about that when we reviewed Here. Mm-hmm. Or what was that was when it was just all in the one house, just because I can get bored pretty easy with movies. Mm-hmm. So I guess the action aspect helped a little bit, and seeing a familiar face, familiar faces too, made it a little bit more watchable for me, I suppose. So yeah. It was a January movie, but I'm glad we've seen it, because, sometimes there's pretty big movies that come out, but... Yeah.
So we can hop over to the meh. The main thing I'd put in the meh is the second act. Once we get the initial conflict and, the plane off the ground and Mark Wahlberg tied up, we don't see much of Mark Wahlberg for a lot of this movie. For a guy that was advertised to be the star of the film, We don't get him very much.
Yeah.
I think that was a letdown for me. I put it in the meh just because... I don't know.
I think you were wanting more from him.
I'm going to say second act in the meh. I'm going to say second act in the meh, not the lack of Mark Wahlberg.
Right.
Second act went in the meh just because we start to learn some of the stuff going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Within the government and stuff, and with the mob and all of that. But it's kind of a snooze fest.
Yeah, I thought it was a little confusing. I wish we would have gotten a little bit... So... I would have liked to get a little bit more of a backstory. Maybe even, like, make it a half hour longer, I would say.
No.
No, just to get a little bit more backstory on, like, who this guy is.
I would have 100% fallen asleep if this movie was any longer. This was, unfortunately for me, I'm putting the pacing in the meh, too, because of that second act, this felt like a 2.5 hour movie, and it was 91 minutes.
I think I would have liked it more... I'm putting the backstory in the meh, personally.
I didn't hate this movie by any means, but rather than add 20 minutes, I would have rather them just scrapped it and restarted. I don't think the writing was very good, but I wasn't going to get into that in the meh.
Yeah. I'm putting not knowing much of the backstory in the meh.
Yeah.
Just because she's on the phone, so you don't get to put, like, you hear them talking, but, like, in my brain, like, it just doesn't click, the backstory. Like, who Winston is and what happened and, like, who is... I don't even remember his name. The fellow that was going to jail. Like, I just didn't click in my brain. Yeah. So, maybe, like... a little bit at the beginning, like a little bit of backstory, and then jump into it. I don't know. Something to make that connect personally for me. So I'm putting that...
It's fair.
Yeah. It just depends.
I knew what was going on the whole time. I just didn't think it was interesting.
Yeah.
For me, that's why I don't want it longer. For me, pacing's definitely meh. I'd also put... I'm drawing a blank on the actress name, but I'd put the female character and her acting in the meh. I thought she was good in the plane. But when we're at like first act, when she's in the cabin and all of that's going on, I didn't think she was that convincing as a U.S. Marshal.
Yeah.
So I put that part in the meh. That's what sucks is, like, I did enjoy the third act, but the first and second act just didn't do much for me. Unfortunately. Yeah. I think that's all I have in the meh, though.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add to the meh.
So we'll hop over to the bad. I thought the effects were pretty bad. We start with a moose that was just atrocious.
He is so bad.
I didn't think the plane looked that good when we get outside shots, especially when it's going through, like, a snowstorm. Okay. And then the landing was really bad with the wheel breaking off and... all of that going on. I didn't think it looked good. So anytime that special effects was used, I thought it looked pretty bad. When we're inside the plane, I think, like, the set looks good, but outside the plane, I didn't think it looked very good.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with the moose, and it sucked because it's, like, the first, like, 2 minutes of the movie, and I was like...
Yeah.
Like, I think I even made, like, an actual sound. I was like, oh, God. Like, when you seen that, but you mentioned when we came out of the movie about the other special effects, and I didn't really... usually for me to notice a special effect, if it's good or bad, it has to be either really bad or really good. You definitely watch way more movies than me, so I think you have...
Yeah.
So, like, I didn't, like, notice, like, the wheel coming up. Like, but I probably, if I would watch it again... maybe. But I definitely recognized the moose in the very beginning. He's very, very blatant that was obviously not real. But, like, I don't know. The other parts I didn't really notice, but if I gave it another watch, maybe. But that's just... Yeah. I'm a movie novice.
Another bad for me. I just don't think it was very well written. And that goes into the pacing. It's just... for what is supposed to be an action thriller, there's not a lot of action for a lot of this movie. Yeah. You advertise Mark Wahlberg. I'm going to put the lack of Mark Wahlberg in the bad because you advertise him as the main character of this movie, and there's like a good 45 minutes. He has nothing to do with this movie. That's half the movie.
Yeah. I feel like they market him just because he's a big name, and even if you don't go to the movies, you know who Mark Wahlberg is. So I think putting his name like in bold, like theoretically.
Well, no, I'm not saying that.
Is giving people more of a pull to go to watch the movie.
For sure, but then it just lets you down.
Exactly. That's fair.
Also, he didn't need to be bald. I thought that was just a dumb throw-in. Now Mark Wahlberg is becoming a thing.
Oh, no, it's so bad.
So I'd put that in the bad.
So bad.
Also, I did not like the pilot that was helping them land the plane. He was, like, very, like...
AI.
No, not even that. He was very, like, creepy.
Yeah.
Like, just hitting on her the whole time. And I'm like...
So, at first, I was nervous because they were talking about all these leaks that had been happening within, like, the U.S. Marshal's office. And I was like, oh, my God, this pilot is going to, like... It's going to be bad.
Yeah.
Because he isn't going to... You know what I mean? I thought he was going to be... not a good guy and steer them in the wrong direction or whatever. And when I first, because his voice doesn't sound very realistic. It kind of actually, he sounds like a setting you can make Siri sound like on your phone. So I just was, I don't know, I'm glad that he was a good guy and that he did steer them in the right direction. And it ended up being, I feel like they maybe made him the way he was just for maybe a little bit of comedic relief.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
It didn't land, I mean, I chuckled maybe a little bit, but I definitely laughed more at Topher Grace's comedic elements for sure.
Yeah, it was just... It was a bumpy ride. It was
literally
a plane ride loaded with turbulence, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Had moments, but ultimately landed with two wheels.
Like the plane.
So we'll hop over to our final thoughts and ratings. What do you want to leave off with Flight Risk, and what do you give it out of 10?
Just like other movies we reviewed in January. It's not good. It's not bad. Glad we've seen it. The theater was surprisingly fuller than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I turned the corner to walk up the steps, and I was like...
Sparky Mark.
Wow.
I bet a lot of people were upset, too.
Yeah. You mentioned it, it's a January movie. I don't think anything major is going to come from it. Even though there are big names attached to it, but that doesn't always mean it's going to be a box office hit.
Yeah.
Glad we've seen it. I don't know. There's not a whole lot to say about it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go kind of middle-ish of the road and give it a 6 out of 10. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I mean, I've already said it. It's got moments. It's got moments. It's like somebody brought a good idea to the writing table and then they just didn't put their best foot forward in finishing the writing.
Yeah, I like the story, like the idea.
It's got elements that are cool. It just falls flat in a lot of places. It's a snooze fest through the middle 45. A great, I wouldn't even say great, a good third act bogged down by bad effects. Yeah. I'm going 4 out of 10. Okay. Just fell a little under a little under the middle of the pack for me. It's definitely a January movie, and I agree. I'm not mad that I went and saw it because there is dumb fun to it. I mean, seeing Topher Grace be like the comedic element was fun for me. Especially. Like you said, being a fan of that 70s show and obviously loving him in Spider-Man 3, even though he's probably the worst character in that movie. So I had fun with it at moments. It's one of those ones where if you go tired, you might struggle to keep your eyes open in that middle 45.
Yeah, I can see that.
But like you said, definitely not upset I went and saw it. Just, you know what you're going to get this time of year.
Yep.
I did enjoy Wolfman, and I'm really excited for next week's movie, Companion. For me, it's probably a better January than you get most years, especially if Companion ends up being a hit for me. But
yeah.
You're gonna have this fall flat this time of year. So. Yep. Just not what you expect from Mel Gibson either. This isn't his first go around in directing, and it definitely wasn't his best foot forward. But again, it just feels like it wasn't finished at times.
Yeah.
That'll do it for Flight Risk, Rosie. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
Thank you all for watching. If you like what you're watching, check out some of these other videos. Hit the subscribe button or follow the social links down below. Anything is appreciated. And we'll talk to y'all soon. Peace.
Peace and love.